go hard. That's just what I have to say. Go hard. Don't settle for less. Clean out all the mediocre stuff. Like always be ready to question. You're sweeping the streets, trying to be the best at what you do. Put in the time. It's difficult for all of us. And the funny thing about it is that all of us have the same 24 hours. But there are some people who truly excel with those. So why not you?
Hey, and welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast, a place where we talk about every and anything that impacts our lives on this journey of becoming our best versions. My name is Solange Che, and I am your host. In this podcast, I share my experiences, I share my story, my successes, my failures, my fears, my challenges, all with the goal to inspire someone out there. I stand to tell you today that no matter how many rock bottoms you hit in life, there is always room for self-improvement. So do not give up on yourself, because we are all unique in one way or the other. And because we have different stories and tackle life from different angles, I bring in guests to share their experiences, their stories with us, to give us tips on what they are doing and how they are doing things differently. Remember that in life, there is no one size fits all. So my goal is to be able to provide a repository where my audience will be able to come back to and say, hey, there was this guest that shared his or her experience on a specific topic, and I would like to gain some more insights from that. So it also serves as a knowledge base. I hope you get the best value out of this, and that someday you will come back to be my guest. Thank you for being part of the You Can Be Anything tribe. Hey, once more, welcome to the You Can Be Anything podcast. I'm your host, Solange Che, and thank you for joining me again today. It's been a couple of weeks, and today I have another amazing guest who is here to share his story. And remember, the goal of this podcast is having people share their stories that can inspire, that can impact, that can motivate you to go a little bit further, or to realize that you're not the only one doing what you're doing, and that sometimes just listening to other people might help make you understand that, hey, life is not always a bed of roses, and that, hey, if you tackle this thing the right way, you will excel at it. Today, I have on the show Rosius Ateh. He is a serverless developer, an AWS serverless hero, and I brought him in today to talk to us about his journey, his story. So stay tuned, and together, let's welcome Rosius to the You Can Be Anything podcast. Thank you so much, Rosius, for accepting my invitation, and welcome to my platform.
Thank you, Solange. Thanks for having me.
My honor. So again, I just told everybody who you are in my own words. If you don't mind, Can you please introduce yourself? Who would you say Rosius is?
Well, first and foremost, I'm Rosius Ndimofor. I am a software developer. I like building stuff. I've been building applications for about 8 years now, and basically that's just what I do. I sit in front of the computer for long hours. Yeah, and I also love playing video games sometimes. Yeah, I generally love creating stuff. That's just it about me.
Oh, great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. You say you're a software developer. Is that something that you studied in school, or is it a skill that you learned?
All right, so this whole journey started back in 2008. So after my advanced level, I traveled to India to do a degree in software engineering, but due to some injuries, I couldn't complete it. So I came back with a diploma. So I started programming back in 2008, but it wasn't up until 2012 that I actually started showcasing or started putting my programming skills to the test by building and trying to, freelance and stuff like that, create and sell applications. So from 2008 to 2012, I was just down. I was at the university, and I was doing something else. I was doing network engineering at the university. So after that, I decided to get back to software because I felt like something was missing. So in 2012, I got back into software, and then I started writing software for myself and then for others, just to get some little cash, to get back. So yeah, so it's something that I studied in India, and then I studied in the university, and then I studied on my own too.
Oh, great. That's nice. If I may ask, why India? What was the motivation for India?
Actually, India wasn't my idea. That was my mom's idea. That was my other brother's idea. Because back then, well, we cannot deny it, IT in India is something else. It's great. It's great. It's cheap. It's great. It's cheap. And I'm not saying cheap. I'm saying affordable.
Affordable, yeah.
Yes, let me say affordable. So when I was done with my advanced level, like most of us scientists want to be doctors. I wanted to be a doctor, but my mom had other plans for me. She's like, okay, your brother is already in India. He's doing networking, Cisco networking. So why don't you go to India and do programming? But I didn't know what programming was. What's programming? I want to be a doctor. I want to do more physics. I want to do more math, biology. So that's just how it is. So it was her choice. It was her idea for me to get to India, not mine. If they asked me and I knew a little bit about programming, I would have said, I want to go to the US, to go to Germany, but it wasn't, I don't think it was affordable in the US or in Europe, the way compared to India.
Yeah, the reason I asked you that question is because I have worked with Indians. These people are amazing. They know their stuff. I work with Indians. They are my developers. So I'm a consultant. So they are most of my developers and Indians, and they are great at what they do. So that's why I asked you that question. Why India? Because, of course, I know for sure that those people, they are great with software development and programming. And just a quick shout out. I just want to appreciate you for saying yes to talk to me because you're kind. I have my own thoughts about developers. I always call them out. In my company, like developers, most of them are introverts. They would not agree to do stuff like this. They don't want to talk much. They just want to show you what they have built. And I've dealt with them. I'm always that person that tries to make the developers that I work with, more fun because they'd never really want to talk out of what they are building. So thank you so much for making the time to talk to me today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Oh, great.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. So when you say programming, right, did you learn a specific programming language, or would you say you are all-round programmer? Do you PHP, Java? The one I'm familiar with is Apex. Are you specialized in one, or would you say you are familiar with most of the programming languages out there?
Okay, so, that's how it starts, right? When you're learning programming, you start with a language, you don't know what gets you when you start, what you actually be attached to, because there are many programming languages for different purposes. When you start off, you pick up a programming language. Let me say you start off with C programming language. That's what I started off with. And then I moved to C++. Then I went to Java. I found my home at Java. And I was really, really, really comfortable with Java. So I started using Java to build Android and stuff like that. So it's when with programming, you start learning it, and then you get one language that you think fits the purpose of what you want to accomplish, and then you can then choose to either master it, or you can be the master of that language, or you be the jack of all trades. I don't know, but one thing about trying to know, there's no issue about knowing a lot of language and actually be a polyglot. It's great, but don't study two programming languages at the same time. It doesn't make sense. It will actually throw you off a little bit. It's just always better to master one and then try to see how the language of master will complement another language which you want to, like, let the languages complement each other.
Yeah.
Exactly. So your knowledge spreads out that way.
Great. Go ahead.
At this point, I know I'd already studied and used Java for a while. And then I got into JavaScript, and I got into PHP, and I got into Python, and they're just similar languages. It's just about the syntax, the idea. the semantics actually stay the same. I mean, semantics are the same, but the syntax just change a little bit different.
A little bit. When I hear you talk like that, it amazes me. As a linguist, when I switched into tech and I heard of the syntax of code of a programming language, I heard of the semantics of a programming language, I was like, whoa, these are the things I learned as a linguist, right? So it did actually help me read code a little bit. Slightly, it did actually help me, but I would not say that it is like, but just understanding the syntax on how to where to place things and how to read it, it's actually, that does actually work. So if somebody said, hey, you know what, I want to learn program, I want to become a developer, are you in a place where you can advise someone on where to start? What will you say is a good base for someone who is getting into programming? Which of the programming languages would you say is a good base? Where can they start?
All right. So I get that question a lot. Like I get it at least 5 times a week or stuff like that. Here's where I actually start off with when I get asked that question. I first ask about what, because there are different types of applications. Different types of ways you want to apply your programming language. So do you want to be a mobile developer? You want to be a web developer? You want to be a data scientist? You want to be an artificial intelligence engineer, stuff like that. So that's the first step that I take. Let me say, for example, you want to be a mobile and web developer. Be like, okay, fine. So that is settled. So now these are the languages for, in order for, in fact, if you want to be a mobile or / web developer, you have to start first with the base, which is HTML. HTML is actually the base. And then from HTML, you will now move up to CSS, styling. From CSS, you will now move up to JavaScript. You want to now start applying some nice animations to your website, and also you want to make your site dynamic, such a way that you can pull data from stuff.
Different places.
And then, exactly. And then you want to learn a little bit about database, about APIs. After you've learned these languages, what really matters the most is projects. When I talk about projects, people always tend to imagine maybe something big. No, I'm talking about a to-do app. Now I'm talking about a very basic calculator app, something basic. You start from the basic, and then you increase the difficulty after, like, let your project of yesterday never equal the project of today. Let the project of today always be a step just like that. So I don't know if I've answered the question properly.
Oh, yes, of course, because I know that that's a common question for, again, my target audience is mostly, I always try to target people who probably want to upskill or to reskill, or maybe people who are trying to learn something new. That's why I like to ask this kind of a question, so they can actually know where to start and how to go about it. So yes, you did answer it. That's depending on what kind of developer you want to be, that will help you pick or choose which of the languages to learn first, to start learning. So yes, that does answer my question.
Yeah, other factors that come into play is also the time that you have and your age. So it matters too. Your age matters too. we have to put that in there. So it does, like I said, it just depends on who is asking the question. That's just my own view, and I will not support anybody trying to view life from my own eyes. I'll just give you my own view, but feel free to go out there and make your choices.
Yep, that definitely makes sense. We live in a free world, right? Giving advice is no rule. It's you taking it and do what you want to do with it. So of course, I agree with you there. So I also know that apart from you, again, I have used the word serverless developer. And can you please explain to us, what does it mean to be a serverless developer?
Yeah, that's also another really common question that I've asked for. I've answered for quite some time now. So it all starts back maybe, let me say 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. At first, if you've ever developed applications before, the thing is, when you develop this application on your computer, you have to host it somewhere. You have to put it on a server, so that everybody around the world can access it. It's not just you have to put it on a server so that everybody can access it. The problem now is that you have to pay for the first thing is that you have to buy the server space. You have to configure that server space. In really large companies, what they do is that they buy racks of physical servers, racks of them, and they actually put it in a data warehouse. They have somebody there to monitor its monitor the if it's on or off, to change the softwares, to upgrade the softwares, to actually do some, let me say, software patches and upgrades, stuff like that. So with all of this, it doesn't matter if your application is running on the server or not. Once you've already bought it, you're paying for it. Those servers are actually prone to, and most times you have to buy a backup of those servers because you can crash. Something might happen. You might turn it on and it doesn't come on, so you need a backup and stuff like that. So it doesn't matter if you have already if your application is running or not. It doesn't matter if people are using your applications or not. You're paying for the server space. So engineers looked at this and they knew that maybe companies can handle this, but they'll be losing a lot of money. But individuals like me sitting in my room, how can I actually just develop my application and with a little bit of money, I just host it online and I have millions of people use it. That's where serverless came in. So the thing is that when people hear about serverless, they think that it means the absence of servers. No, it actually means the presence of servers, but the servers are not managed by you. The servers are managed by a server provider, the cloud provider. So the advantage with servers is that you only get to pay for what you use. So take, for example, I develop my application and I host it on my server. As if users are not using the application yet, I'm still struggling with marketing and stuff like that to get users to use it. If they're not using the application yet, I don't pay for anything. If there's no traffic going through the server online, I don't get to pay for anything. That's a huge plus.
Yep.
That's a huge plus. And then now it becomes easy for me to actually configure my infrastructure. I can easily put up updates and stuff like that of my application without having to move to move too many parts around. So it's a lot easier, So that's actually the value proposition of serverless. You pay only for what you use, and then you're quick to actually develop your idea and push it to the market. And then it scales up like exponentially. Like if 1 million users just hit your application at once, serverless actually scales up. So you don't hear about something like, my application crashed. My server crashed rather. There's nothing like that. It scales up exponentially and then also scales down at the same rate so as how, depending on the amount of traffic going through your application.
That does, again, before coming to talk to you today, I think I've looked at that and I wasn't particularly sure what it meant too. But so would you say this is similar to the free online? Because what developers, I have actually gone online and I have people write code and stuff and they put it online. You can go get somebody's code and use it for free. Would you say is that the kind of thing? Or is this more like AWS, what Amazon does? Like, hey, you pay just for what you use in their cloud. Let me call it cloud, right? So I guess it's geared more towards that because when I looked at your prying through your profile, I saw that you build stuff on Amazon. And again, Amazon calls you one of those people Amazon refers to as serverless heroes, right? When a serverless hero, can you tell us a little bit about that? That when I looked at that sounded cool. And I was like, hey, what does it mean to be a serverless hero for AWS?
Okay. So, here's one misconception about being a hero, about serverless hero. Serverless hero doesn't mean that you're an expert or that you're the most intelligent person to have used their services before. No.
Wait, Rosius, let me take something back. I think it definitely means that you are an expert in building something. You might not be the most intelligent, but it does mean that you are an expert. Correct? Thank you. Please give yourself some accolades, man. I read a little bit about this. Don't be too modest.
Okay. All right. So, So, yeah. All right. So it's actually easy to be. It's not too complicated to be a serverless hero. The thing is, firstly, you have to understand that there are above 200 AWS services. First, let me talk about that. So you have to understand some of those services, and then you have to teach others. You have to share with the community. It's more about sharing with the community, So, hey, I've learned this thing. I've learned this new thing. I've developed this new application. I'd like to share with you, or you blog about it. So that actually makes AWS to pay attention to you, like, okay, we definitely have an advocate for our services at this part of the world. Maybe we should encourage him a little bit so that he goes ahead and shares more of what we do, of what we create. So that's just what it means to be a hero, But and then on the other hand, yeah, you have to definitely master some of the services, But one thing about sharing knowledge is that you gain the knowledge twice. Like I always say, when you teach once, you gain twice. You learn twice, rather. So it's always nice to, yeah.
So again, just so you know that I actually did my research about this. And so Serverless Hero for AWS is similar to what Salesforce calls the Salesforce MVPs. And as you said, AWS, Amazon, Salesforce, all of these companies, they put a lot of emphasis on giving back to the community, right? Giving back is a huge culture for these people, for these companies. And to the best of my understanding, at least in the Salesforce ecosystem, because that is the ecosystem I am more familiar with, is the fact that they want people to be able to go out and teach and share what they know. And that is what you did with AWS. That is what you did. And that is why they acknowledge you. It is not easy, Rosius, to teach people. It is not easy to make that time, right? The first thing is convincing people, especially our own, right? When I talk of our own, I'm talking of Africans like you and I. It's hard to get those people to believe that this is a path worth taking. It is a journey that we are all on. And I definitely give you a shout out for making that effort, even to the extent that AWS noticed you. It means you went above and beyond. You actually gave up your time. You gave up your intellect to teach another person. That is something that you don't downplay. Not everybody can do that. So again, congratulations on that title. And it is worth celebrating. Do not say it is easy, because truly it is not. It takes dedication to be able to do stuff like that. And we are lucky to have somebody like you in our community. We are lucky to have someone not only like you who does it in the back, but you come out to talk about it, to encourage other young people, just to make them believe that we actually have that potential to do great things among us. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Let's get a little off AWS. That's what you do. I'm sure any other person, if you're anywhere in Africa and AWS is new to you, there is a Cloud Heroes Africa. That is where a lot of people go get their questions answered, because this is a group of people who have come together to put AWS cloud out there in Africa to educate more people about it. So if you're listening to this and you don't know what AWS is or what it does, I will just beckon you to search Cloud Heroes Africa. And I know that they do a lot of those introductory sessions out there. Then again, most probably if Rosius has time, look for him on LinkedIn and pest him up, okay? Pest him. Find him on LinkedIn and message him 100 times. If he doesn't reply, just keep messaging. One day he'll find time for you. Okay.
I reply. I always reply. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So that's nice. Thank you so much for being there. Let's switch gears a little bit from AWS and talk a little bit about Rosius, right? Yeah. What motivates you? Well, should I say motivates? You spoke about that already. Let me take it back to what would you say, or who would you say is your role model? That's the word.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'm unorthodox a little bit in the fact that I have some really strange people that I look up to. I'm that kind of person. I'm a little bit old school. I don't like easy stuff. I like people who because I mean, I'll put it this way: I'm in Cameroon. I know damn well that I don't have a lot of opportunities like people out there. So I always place a burden on myself to actually go I actually have to go way ahead of those who are doing the normal things, so that I separate myself from them. So the people that I look up to are the type of people who do crazy stuff just to stand out. Something like there's this person, there's this American, he's called David Goggins. He used to be this fat, and now he's this, and he has this very crazy mentality of he always says stay hard. Like, he's somebody who does really crazy stuff. Like, he does really, like, he's somebody that has run for about 135 miles, and broken all the bones at his feet, and he actually had to use sellotape to tape his leg and continue running. So, yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Actually, those are the kind of people that I like. People who go against all odds to accomplish the mission. And then I like there's this philosopher, I think I'll call him a philosopher, called Jordan Peterson. So he just speaks to me directly. Yeah, a lot of people hate him, but I love him. He tells me the truth. I like people tell me the truth. I like people tell me the truth without caring about my feelings. Tell me the truth. Yeah. And then for even music, that's I also use, even if it hurts, exactly. I also use some musicians to give me that rush, that adrenaline rush to sit on my computer for long hours. So someone like Kendrick Lamar is at the top of that list. He's also somebody that I really, really admire the way he does stuff. Albums and stuff. So those three people, I think, when I just have them in my head, I can go for long hours and just keep on accomplishing stuff like that.
You just keep doing your stuff. Now that you've mentioned music, I always bring this up. Who is your favorite Cameroonian artist, musician?
It used to be my younger brother, Pascal, but he stopped rapping. So right now, I'll just take it back to Jovi, because he used to...
You're one of those Jovi fans, huh? You're one of those Jovi fans.
I'm actually a fan, but I'm not a soldier. He has soldiers. Okay. He has fans and he has soldiers.
That's true.
Yes. I like his music. It's great. It's really great. I like to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
It's great.
Shout out to Jovi. He has some really, as you say, he has soldiers. He has some really dedicated soldiers.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So shout out Jovi. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So again, I like to deviate a little bit, and then I come back, because that is how my brain works. I'm not a developer like you that will sit for hours and just talk to AWS. I deviate and I come back. So again, I would like for you to talk about something that it's kind of pertinent in this world in this society of IT, upskilling, reskilling, finding jobs, and learning new skills. And this is about, it is common that we hear about walks of life, we hear about these different clouds, we learn them, we get certified, we start looking for jobs and all of that. One thing that I would love for you to put a little bit of light on is the whole, how do you stand out? Yes, you can come into a crowd of people, 100 people, all these people have the solution architect, the AWS solution architect, practitioner, 100 people that all have these two certifications. These are like the basic ones, right? How would you advise anybody that finds themselves in that crowd to stand out? Because the truth is, certifications are good, but they are not enough to make you stand out in that crowd. How would you advise someone that finds themselves in that crowd of 100 to stand out and get hired? Let me put it that way, because why do we learn a lot of things? We want to have jobs, right? And make some good money.
Yeah. So I think what I'll say, I'll actually step on a lot of toes here, and people will not be happy with me, that's what I enjoy. Like I said, I like people who tell me the truth without caring about my feelings, and I actually like to tell people the truth without caring about their feelings. But the first thing about it is that I'm somebody who likes to talk about value. I like what value, if I want to interact with you, right? If I need your help on something, try to put it in a kind of value proposition. I'm exchanging something. It'll make you actually shift towards me more than if I just want value from you without giving back. So what am I saying here? First and foremost, I have 0 certifications. So, and then I've seen the trend. I've seen everybody scrambling for certifications. Sincerely, it's sad. When I say it's sad. And it's sad because I see them getting stuck and then they're asking why they are stuck. So let me talk again about value. So when you have those certifications, you're providing value. You provide some value to your prospective employer, but you will not provide that much value as somebody who has hands-on experience. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about instead of fighting to grab certifications, fight to do projects. What am I talking about projects? Like I said, when I say projects, people always think that I'm asking to build a spaceship. Don't build a spaceship. Start off with a to-do app, and then you walk away from there. When I was introduced to AWS Serverless in November 2020, so when I was introduced to the service, what I did was I just got in. I first looked for tutorials on how to build stuff, and I just created the first thing. I started blogging about it. That's what people fail to understand. The blogging got me all sorts of opportunities. The first thing is that it got me a job like 4 months later. 4 months of constant blogging. Like when I'm talking about blogging, like I said, I do stuff to the extreme. Now I've calmed down a little bit. I used to put in 16 hours a day. So easily ran through a lot of stuff that maybe you would take about, let me say, a year to go through. I ran through it in a couple of months, like putting in consistent hours like that. So I put in so much stuff. There's just no way that you could go online without seeing me. That's how I got recognized as a serverless hero, because I think actually I started nauseating these AWS engineers. Like they could not have more of me again. They were like, okay, you can have it. So the thing is now, when I look at groups like Cloud Heroes, it's nice they're giving hope to people, but I feel like putting certifications at the top is the wrong mindset, because now you make a lot of people scramble for those certifications just to come and realize that it wouldn't get them past the door. You have the certifications, yes. Then what?
Yep.
A lot of companies, they don't care about certifications. They care about what you can actually do, like what you can do, not piece of paper that you're going to answer a couple of questions for. So if anybody who wants to get into AWS is actually listening to this, please slow down with certifications and then pick up projects. But just slow down, just keep the certifications on the side just for a little bit. Projects will get your job, will make you provide value for your company easier than certifications. And once you can provide value, then you have all the jobs that you want.
I couldn't agree with you less. That's the truth about it. I know that I have encouraged people to work on projects. I have podcast skills series that I go. I think one of the episodes there was like, hey, please, let's get hands-on. And the reason I asked you to talk about this is because I've read a couple of articles published on LinkedIn. I read stuff on there. And again, it's just questioning like, are certifications enough for companies to hire people or to hire you and say, hey, take over this responsibility? And the percentage of people who voted for that, of course, it was certifications are not enough. Yes, you can have them to get recognized, but your projects, the hands-on projects, those are the things that are pushing. And I even encourage some people like, hey, you know what? Do some of those projects, put them, just as you said, you blogged about them, right? So someone will say, hey, I don't know how to blog. Man, bug people on LinkedIn. Get just on LinkedIn, put a video, bug people. I did that when I got into Salesforce. Yeah, just do a video of what you've built, put it on LinkedIn. It attracts people, right? It's little things. It's just the little things, not really I have a ton of the Salesforce ones because, again, man, I'm from academia. I know how to read and take exams. Okay, that is one thing that it works for me. But at the same time, I do not lay low with little projects that I would normally do. I actually created my portfolio on one of Salesforce's platforms, and I put that out there, and it attracted a lot of people on LinkedIn because those were the kind of things that they wanted to see. So I appreciate you for sharing that, and I hope that somebody listening to this will actually take this advice. And all of these things are meant to help you stand out if you're out there learning any new skill. It's not enough to put those certifications to back them and sit and say, hey, I'm this certified and I'm this certified. One of the most important things is showing that you can do it. And how can you show it? By using little projects, just as Ru said. So thanks for bringing that up. And this applies across, yeah? It's not only for AWS or for Salesforce. Even as a Scrum Master, anything you are learning, when you become certified, put yourself out there by showing people what you know. I know one of the things in the US here that is very popular is Scrum. It's okay to be, yes, you're certified. What can you do? Show them what kind of boards you can do. Make a video of the Jira board. Show them how you can do things around. Just let people see, because certifications are not enough. So thanks a lot. This is something I'm very passionate about. You can definitely tell. Having people showcase their skills and not just taking certifications and saying that, hey, I got this certification. Yeah, I appreciate you so much for sharing that. Hearing it from someone that is actually in that field and saying it, somebody that is not a talker like me, I'm happy that you're saying that.
Yeah, because, it's actually easy to have the solutions architect associate, to pass the solutions architect associate. Anybody can pass that. But how many people can build a scalable chat application? How many people can configure a CI/CD pipeline? That's where skill comes in. And that's how you separate yourself. You separate the meat from the bones.
So again, another quick question to you, because I know you probably, if somebody were to look for those little projects, for those small projects, again, in the AWS space, right? If, let's say, someone wanted to, okay, hey, Rosius, I listened to you talk to Solange, and what are some of the examples of just small projects that I can work on and build to show that I understand how this whole thing works? Are there any that come off your mind that you can just throw out here?
Okay, so after this, I would actually put up a link to my blog where they can actually see, all the projects I do. But it's easy. You start with a to-do API, and then you can jump into a social media application, to an e-commerce application, to, let me say, a chat application, so anything that just comes to your mind. When you look around you, there's just a lot. Only 1 billion people have already done it. Do it in your own way, because as you're doing it, you're understanding a certain level of understanding about how it works. So if you do all of those, you finally realize that, okay, you're at a skill level where you think that you can provide a certain value to a company. At that point, you realize that companies are running towards you and not you. That's actually the way that I used to actually to get into my first opportunity to work as a serverless developer. The company, they actually reached out to me, and not even me dropping resumes. So it makes your life a lot easier. It takes you halfway already. So
okay, great. So I'm going to add your blog. Yeah, so people can check it out. All those people, they can see what it is and how to actually find it. So I'm going to bring that up on the screen, just so if anybody is watching this, they can actually see it too and say, hey, let's check this out. Let me quickly. So if you look on the screen, you'll be able to see the blog. And this is the blog. This is where you can find projects that Rosius has done and maybe get inspiration from there, right? Again, looking at what he has built will inspire you to go ahead and build. Again, it's okay to rebuild, because by trying to build what he has built, build the same thing that he has built. And I bet from building that, you'll be able to say, hey, what can I change? Because the truth is, your mind doesn't work the same as Rosius's mind. So you look at what he has built, and at some point you'll be like, I can tweak this a little bit. Let me change this a little bit. And that is how you get better and better. So thank you so much, Rosius, for sharing this. I'll also add the link to the description for those who listen to this just on audio on the podcast platform so they can find it. Thanks a lot for doing this. Yeah, we are 2 minutes away to the end of this, but before we come to the end of this, one of the signature things on my podcast is I give you that microphone. I'm like, hey, Mr. Ateh, you have been appointed to advise the world. And we want you to stand on this huge, skyscraper with the biggest microphone and talk to someone out there, right? Talk to someone out there who cares to listen. You've had your own fair. You are not a very old man. You are a young guy, but you have had your own fair experiences in life, both success stories, challenges, and everything. What would you say to someone who cares to listen? So this is me making you the greatest motivational speaker of the world.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is the right spot. I think I have to say to talk my talk now. So
yes.
Go hard. That's just what I have to say. Go hard. Don't settle for less. Clean out all the mediocre stuff. Like always be ready to question what is before you. When I don't care what field you are in, programming, nursing, or you're sweeping the streets. Try to be the best at what you do. Put in the time. It's difficult for all of us. And the funny thing about it is that all of us have the same 24 hours. But there are some people who truly excel with those. So why not you? And it's not that difficult. It's just going one more step further than the average person. You know who the average person is. You can be the average person. When you've pushed beyond your bounds, your body starts telling you that, hey, but you're not scared. You actually push beyond it and you're ready to go beyond that a couple of times. So the thing is, in order to put all of this into real use, into real perspective, into reality, you have to be consistent. There's just no way. Like, you cannot do it without consistency. And in order to be consistent, you have to be disciplined. If it's 2 hours you put in, you plan to put in every day, put in 2 hours. The only thing that can happen is 3 hours, but 1 hour can't happen. Discipline. Trust me, it's easier to say, but to do it, it's a lot challenging. But when you start it, you'll see you develop, the how do you call it? You'll come as second nature to you, and you'll just always. So that's just it. Always keep mediocrity away.
Out of the way. This is awesome. And the way you say it about being an average person, I grew up knowing that I am an average child to my parents, right? I was not the most intelligent. I looked at myself as average. I always said, all I can give you is just make sure that I pass my exams and go to the next class. When I wrote the ordinary level, all I needed was just the 4 papers I needed to go to high school. When I wrote the advanced level, the same mentality, until it hit me hard that, hey, I could not do journalism and mass communication because I did not have the points needed. So the same me that grew up from primary 1 all to opposite, knowing that being happy with being an average student, it hit me hard when I got rejected from doing journalism and mass communication. And that is when I took that extra step you're talking about. That is when I stopped becoming an average student. My whole life in university, I was no average student. I was a standout student.
Yeah.
And the same mentality took me through even learning a new skill, being that discipline. So I always, whenever I talk to people, I bring in my story because I know where I come from. I know what has happened, how I have evolved, how I have changed as time goes on. Today, I tell people that I am a Salesforce architect. It's not an easy thing, right? It took hard work, dedication, all of that to get to where I am today. But this is the same me who used to be comfortable with being average. But I took that extra step that you just spoke about to say, you know what? Yeah. If I used to sleep for 8 hours, I'm cutting it down to 6 because I could use those extra 2 hours to do something else.
Nice.
And I thank you so much. I love you so much for just bringing this up and talking about it. I'm hoping that this hits home to somebody and they actually realize that they can be better at what they are doing. And for you to be this young and think the way you think, I bet your mom should be so proud of you. Yes.
Oh,
so, that's nice.
Maybe.
Yeah, I guess she is. My regards to her. Thank you so much, Rosius. Thank you for making the time to have this amazing chat with me on a day that you'll probably be building an app somewhere or thinking of something, and you decided to give me the time. I appreciate you for sharing your story. Thanks again for your time.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure, an honor. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you for spending this 50 minutes with us. I hope that you learned something from it. It's weekend, so you see Rosius is having the time of his life, having a bottle of beer as we chat through this. And again, we hope that you find something encouraging in our little chat. We hope that you get back to Rosius and ask him questions. You can find him on LinkedIn by Ndimofor Ateh Rosius. You'll find him on LinkedIn. I know that he's pretty active there. If you just go to his page, you'll actually see some of the things that he's posting. So I checked those out. So you can also check that out. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And for now and always, I will be your humble guest. Thank you so much. Thanks again, Rosius. Thank you so much for being part of the You Can Be Anything podcast tribe. I appreciate you for spending the time with us. Please kindly follow the podcast on all the social media platforms at You Can Be Anything podcast. And if you like to watch the video versions of the episodes, you can find those on YouTube under my name, Solange Che. Please kindly subscribe to that channel. I'd appreciate it. Also, if you would like to support the podcast, there is a support button on the website www.youcanbeanythingpodcast.com where you can click on to support the podcast. And for you who is ready to be my guest, do not hesitate to reach out either on the social media platforms or just email me at youcanbeanything21@gmail.com. I'll be happy to have you. Stay blessed and be good to each other. Bye-bye.